Update. I married my sister's crush. Original post. My sister and my husband went to college together. She had a crush on him since day one. He was all she talked about. They became part of a very close group of friends, and that same year she invited him and her friends to spend Boxing Day with my family. That's where I met him. We got intimate that same night, and I felt horrible. My sister eventually moved on. She met her husband and she got married last summer. Under all these years, my husband and I met sporadically, and one of the times he told me he loved me, but what could we have done? We tried to date others and I tried to forget him, but I couldn't imagine myself with anyone else, and that made my relationships short and loveless. We met again officially on my sister's wedding. She had invited all her college friends. My husband and I met and he asked me to stop running away, and we started dating secretly. A year later, he proposed. Now I had to tell my family, and I have never endured so much hate and isolation in my whole life. So I lied to them. I told them that we met at my sister's wedding and we hit it off. I never told them how I've been in love with him for almost a decade, and that we have met at least once a year since that Christmas. They've been the best days of my life. My sister is happily married and she just had her baby. Still, she told me she hated me and never wanted anything to do with me. My family shared the same sentiment, that I'm a horrible person. My husband told me he didn't care about a wedding if my family not showing up would hurt me. We have wasted many years and that we didn't choose to fall for each other. He wanted me to be his wife. I still sent invitations to my family, but nobody showed up. Only my friends and my husband's family. I wish they could forgive me for finally choosing my happiness. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. How sad. She had a crush on him 10 years ago, and now she's married with a baby. Her poor man must feel really special now. I haven't spoken to her husband, but he wasn't happy at all about her or my family's reaction. Although he thought my husband and I met at his wedding, so he just thinks it's cute and his wife's reaction questionable. Your sister is a bit psycho. She had a crush and it wasn't returned. She moved on and you guys fell in love. She clearly isn't over it or she wouldn't care. Your family's being ridiculous too. Life is short and you deserve your own happiness. You know, sleeping with him that first night when you knew your sister liked him wasn't right, but you tried to make up for that since. Live your life and be happy. Imagine calling dibs on a car seat then sitting in a different seat, but still refusing to let somebody else sit on the one you called dibs for. Everyone would think you're absolutely ridiculous. And that's a car seat, not a human. I had a guy friend growing up that would call dibs every time we'd bring over a girl he found attractive. It was so gross. I was hoping that was a teenager/young adult mentality. Does all your family and your sister think you guys got involved the day of her wedding? Or do any of them know about when you met? Nobody knows. No, I can't tell them the truth. That's so weird your whole family's acting like that then. Your sister is married, has a kid, and it's been a decade. I genuinely don't understand why would they hate you. Did your sister explain why? I feel like OP isn't telling us the whole story. Edit. I'm getting a lot of questions about telling the whole story. I don't know what more I should have written here other than this. Maybe I didn't do a good job about my sister's crush. My sister is outgoing and she was always open with her thoughts and feelings. So her crush on my husband was a well-known thing to us sisters and mother, and it was known for the longest time. That's why, 1, if they have known about me and him going back longer than what I've said, believe me, they would have confronted me a long time ago. Given their strong reaction after I told them even after all these years, they wouldn't be silent if they knew something was up. Also, they were really shocked and felt that I betrayed my sister and hurt her feelings because he's an old crush, and we don't date each other's crushes, let alone marry them. 2, I misjudged my sister's crush. We all knew she was in love and that she was hurt when he didn't reciprocate, but I thought by the time she met her husband she was over him. Now I'm not sure. 3, I haven't spoken to my sister's husband in months, but from what I've heard, he's not happy about her reaction and things aren't going so well with them. This is also added to why my family is angry because I caused the rift between my sister and brother-in-law. 4, we are 4 sisters. I'm the second oldest and my sister in question is the youngest. All 4 of us are of similar age and closer than best friends. Were anyway. This adds more because she feels really betrayed. I really hope I filled all the missing information now. Sorry for not being clear, and I'm sorry this isn't adequate as the full story. Now for the first update. I'm getting DMs that my post is on TikTok. and that my sister is in a comment saying that I lied and that she had in fact dated my husband for 5 years. Where is this comment? Since I'm overwhelmed with a number of replies and DMs, so if some kind soul could just tag me on her comments. There's no truth to that. It's either a troll or some other poster because all the people who said my sister has answered are refusing to show me her post. Anyway, I'm going to send an email to my family tonight and include the whole truth. It's my last attempt at redemption. If they still don't want anything to do with me, I will leave them be and move on with my life and try to find solace in my new family. Thank you all for listening. Second and full update. Hi everyone. I thought I could make an update about my post since I received a lot of advice about coming clean to my family about when and how I started dating my husband. Sorry it's very long, but at least nobody can complain that I've left out some details. But before that, I want to clarify a few points. If you want the update, skip 2 paragraphs. My sister has not written any posts about her side of the story. I got a lot of awful DMs yesterday from people who pretend to have talked to my sister about how she was dating my husband for 5 years, not only an answered crush, and yet nobody could or would send me the post. One commenter even sent me something from the AITA about a lady whose daughter made an ultimatum about her choosing one of her grandchildren. That's not me. I don't have children. I only ever have written one post about this before, and it was when I sent the wedding invitations and my family said they won't come. Of course, there will always be people who doubt my story. I always see at least 10 comments in every post ever written here about it being fake. Why are you people like this? To those people, I have only one thing to say. I don't care. Also, many ask about the full story because my mother's reaction was so strong. I've tried to explain it in the comments. My sister is the youngest and everyone's favorite, and her crush on my husband was well known. And when he didn't reciprocate her feelings, my mom was very hurt for her sake. As for the rest, they just do what mom says, since she's the matriarch of the family. I would have understood their reaction if they knew the whole truth because I will never forgive myself for what I did. My only comfort is that, before we spent that night together, my husband told me that he never liked my sister that way, and he wouldn't be with her no matter if I was with him or not. He kept saying that, and that he saw her as a sister even later throughout the years. Now to the update. As I said, many of you suggested that I should come clean. And there are pros and cons. Pros is that it's the right thing to do. And if my sister wants to hate me, she has the right to know the full extent of my betrayal. I will never pretend what I did back then was right. I just fell for him. Is that a good enough excuse? And seeing that I still love him so many years later, it was real from the beginning. Cons is that it would probably hurt my sister even more, and probably jeopardize her marriage even more if it turns out she's still hung up over my husband. So I wrote a long email to my mother telling her everything and asking her what I should do. I texted her to go read it. That was last night. This morning she called me and was so cold. She didn't ask how I've been, didn't congratulate me, didn't ask about my husband. She was on point and warned me about telling my sister anything. She said that my brother-in-law has moved out from their home and is asking for divorce. So if I told my sister everything now, it will only make it worse for her. She said that I'm not allowed to contact my sister in any way and for any reason. I should leave her alone and move on with my life. She said that she couldn't believe her eyes when she read my email, and how horrible I actually have been towards my sister. Worse than I thought. My mom's coldness made me understand how much I've hurt my family. I apologized about everything. I apologized for my sister and for breaking our family, and she said, "Is there anything else?" Fine, goodbye then. Later, my oldest sister called me. She has always been the gentlest, and she told me that she missed me and that mom told her everything. The separation between my little sister and her husband is serious. They have been fighting for months now, and he left on my wedding day because my sister was very angry and crying all day. Big sister said that they didn't want to bother me with these details in my honeymoon. I asked her if she was angry at me, and she said that none of them actually is. Maybe except little sister, but that I should give it time. I've talked to my husband now about everything, and I asked him if we have messed up. He just comforted me and told me to be patient, but I don't know. Our marriage started with hardship and at the cost of one of my favorite people and her husband. I'm so sorry. Edit, please. I'm gonna have to ask you to stop about the sister's side of the story. I'm too old for TikTok, but whatever is going on TikTok about my sister having dated my husband is BS. This is so disrespectful to my husband. He's never been unfaithful. He loved me for almost 10 years and yet he never cheated on any of his girlfriends with me. We went long periods of no contact when he was in relationships. So cheating on my sister is just a cruel, cruel rumor. Please stop. And please stop DMing me about TikTok unless you have my sister's alleged post. If no one else is mad, then why didn't they go to the wedding? This still doesn't make sense. Because Mommy Dearest said so. I guess will be that Golden Child was upset and Mommy was upset that Golden Child was upset, and the other members of her family didn't want to get on their bad side. For her own good, Opie should really consider going low contact or no contact. I honestly hate families like this. Okay, so the little sister is mad that her crush from a decade ago is marrying her older sister to the point she blows up her marriage. And Mom is sad for her youngest daughter and wishes to help her, and everyone doesn't want to disagree with Mom? What they're completely ignoring is that little sister will get over this. She will go to counseling, move on, and realize that it was excessive. But the OP is never going to forget this. Everyone in the family has effectively told her that she does not matter and she will never forgive them. She hasn't gotten over him in 10 years. Unless she gets help, this isn't going to change. Pretty sure the sister is in love with the idea. They never dated and were only friends. So she has no idea if they even would have worked. She's acting like her sister took something from her, but she was never even with him. The what-ifs can be genuinely painful, but tearing down your marriage and family over the idea of something that never was, it's mental. She said I'm not allowed to contact my sister in any way and for any reason. This is the worst part of the story for me. The mom is still trying to control how her adult children interact with each other, and is stoking the fire of resentment instead of trying to help extinguish it. My guess is that she spent the entirety of their lives setting them against each other to a greater or lesser degree. Why? Because divide and conquer. They can't unite against her while she keeps them splintered. Opie didn't do anything to harm her sister's marriage. I expect that her losing her mind over Opie's marriage was the final straw for a man who had been living with a grown woman, stuck in the mindset of a spoiled child. Now for the last story. I, 25 female, found out through my biological sister, 19 female, that my husband, 26 male, was exiting my stepsister, 22 female. My husband and I have been together 6 years, married for 5. Our relationship with each other is very stable and trusting, and our relationship with each other's families are happy, stable, and intertwined, due to my husband working with my father, 49 male, / co-owning the business. My family loves and trusts him. My stepsister is depressed and mentally / emotionally held back due to some trauma from her father and mother. She has always had trouble finding herself or a purpose in her life. My husband and I have always been there for her to try and guide her. She finds trouble opening up to me sometimes. She says she is intimidated by my success in life, and due to her temporarily working in close proximity to my father's business, her and my husband have gotten closer, as she sought his guidance with what to do with her life. This was fine with me. I was always in the loop of what she was texting my husband. He always showed me the conversations and asks my opinion and how to respond to her. I believe she was not aware that I was in the loop with the conversations between them. My husband and I kept it that way to help her open up more, in hopes of getting through her, as she shuts down very quickly if she feels judged and will lose all progress and start from scratch. My stepsister always had self-esteem and body image issues, which she had shared in texts with my husband, and he tries to guide her to love herself and get over the trauma from her parents. I was always aware and okay with this. I love my stepsister and want to see her flourish. Now, my biological sister and my stepsister were having a sleepover. My biological sister had my stepsister's phone at some point during the night, and a text message popped up from my husband to my stepsister with inappropriate emojis, drooling emoji, hard eyes emoji, etc. My biological sister opened a text thread and sent me an hour's worth of my stepsister telling my husband her kinks and private interests, and him encouraging her to embrace her fetishes and that they're sexy. They exchanged more inappropriate emojis. He comments on her butt getting bigger and her calling him pet names. I immediately confront my husband about this, and he doesn't deny the text exchange. He explains, in tears, that his goal was not to make her feel judged. He just wanted my stepsister to continue to open up and that he would never hurt me. He is disappointed in himself for letting that conversation get that far, and he realizes his mistake. He apologized profusely and is terrified of me leaving him. He realizes that he's ruined everything. He said he is cutting off contact with my stepsister and will text her one last time explaining how inappropriate that was and that they can't continue to speak. I'm conflicted. This is very on character for my stepsister, and she is dead to me now. and very off character for my husband. He is always respectful and level-headed. I'm deeply hurt and lost. I understand letting my stepsister spill her desires to feel validated, but I'm disgusted that it went that far. I'm confused. My husband's apology felt sincere, but I'm nauseated by the messages I saw and can't get over them. I'm considering couples therapy or individual therapy or just separating for a brief amount of time to process all of this. But I'm scared this will get out to the rest of the family and ruin amazing relationships and a great family business. Family's extremely important to me. This feels so complicated. Is this recoverable? What to do? Now for the advice. Tell the rest of close family, especially your father. You don't need to keep their secrets. You're not the one who's destroying the family but them. Your husband is sorry because he got caught, not because he hurt you. Try trial separation so you can think properly what you really want. Don't rug sweep what happened, because if you do, he will continue to cheat on you. Maybe not with your stepsister, but with other women. This 100% OP. You have nothing to be ashamed of, and you should tell. Tell everyone. They betrayed you and he's counting on you but wanting to rock the boat. It was your sister. Step or not, that's insane. He is sorry he got caught. He will be more careful now. Someone who will do that with your family? No? Nope. Not salvageable. Doesn't matter if it's off character for your husband. The fact of the matter is that he cheated. And you probably can never come back from this. You won't be able to trust him again and always wonder if he was cheating on you behind your back. And very importantly, let everyone know what kind of a person your stepsister is. This is one of those moments where airing your dirty laundry is not a bad thing. It will also prevent her from spinning the story in her favor.
She wants the baby to call her mom. Plus updates. My mother-in-law, 57 female, told me she wants my 25 female unborn child to call her mom. Her reasoning? I am more important to my son than you. There's only one thing you can give him that I can't. She also insists that she can have a baby too if she wanted, so I'm not special for being pregnant. This makes no sense to me, but she's batshit crazy to me at this point. She genuinely believes that I stole her son from her and don't deserve to have my own child refer to me as mom. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. I've read some crazy stories on this sub, but yours is just like WTF. Your mother-in-law wants to have her child's baby. I don't know if it's this sub or the Just Know Mother-in-Law sub, but you can find a list of reading materials and resources that can help you in your hubs, especially with fear, obligation, and guilt boundaries, standing up for yourselves in a healthy way, etc. I'm so sorry you have to deal with this disgusting person. Hugs if you want them. Unfortunately, her experience isn't exactly rare. I have read countless stories in the same vein where the mother-in-law very much seems to want to sleep with her own son. It's like these mother-in-laws are jealous that another woman can provide a son with something they can't, so they resent the wife/girlfriend for that. Treat them like they are the other woman. OP, you need to tell your husband exactly what his mom said and how she is acting. Whether it's his or absurd behavior for what it is or not determines what your next moves to be. The biggest, regardless of his agreement, is putting a massive amount of space between you and mother-in-law, at least until she gets psychiatric help. Let her explain to a medical professional how it's okay in her mind to want to be the mother to her own son's baby. What does your significant other think about his mother saying these things? It is absolutely crazy. He's afraid to upset her by standing up for me. It's disappointing, and I stay away and let comments slide instead of ruining my mental health trying to stand up for myself. This is not healthy for you or your baby. I tell him that the stress his mother is causing and his lack of spine is putting unnecessary stress on your baby. Either he stands up for you and puts in firm boundaries, or he can go stay with his mommy. Now for the first update. I posted previously about my mother-in-law competing with me now that I'm pregnant and suggesting she could have a baby herself. She said the only thing I can offer my husband that she can't is children. We've been married for almost 4 years now. I would have responded to your comments and advice, but my life fell apart. Trigger warning ahead. She has officially won. I was at 14 weeks and had a very bad fall, where I landed on my own belly. She put her stuff all over our living room floor to store it here for some reason, and I tripped on the mess. I began miscarrying 20 minutes later. She was here when it happened and knew it was happening. I was texting, calling, crying, yelling from the bathroom to get his attention. He came in, saw that I had blood overflowing from my shorts, and said he urgently needed to help his mom. He left. I went through the brunt of miscarriage myself, and I held the remains in my hands. I begged him over text to come to the bathroom and help me, to hold me, to go through this with me. He finally came in half-hour later and saw the blood everywhere. I'm anemic and couldn't stand anymore. He made a comment about how it was going to be a lot to clean up, so I tossed off my clothes, climbed into the shower, and bled there. I asked him to buy me large pads and said I'd cleaned a mess. He came back half an hour later with the pads and kept explaining that his mom needed him. They knew I was miscarrying, but she needed help moving things, and it was urgent. She was outside when I cleaned up the bathroom and went to the kitchen for food. I was weak and struggling. She didn't make eye contact with me or talk to me at all, probably because she knew she had won. She took my husband away from me during the most traumatic point of my life, and he went willingly. I feel lost. He spent the night at his mom's house and left me alone. He isn't back yet. I've been alone with his kids from a different relationship, who he only gets to see one 3-day weekend a month. He hasn't texted me and I haven't reached out either. I don't know why it wasn't important to him, why the miscarriage wasn't urgent, why he didn't want to hold me, why he won't come home. I'm so lost and alone and my heart is broken. She's probably celebrating while I'm mourning. Call the kid's mother to come get them. Pack your bags and leave. Never go back. Only contact should be divorce. This man is not your husband. You're an affair partner. He's married to his mother. Run and never look back. That's exactly. If he wants to be with mommy so bad that he left you while you're having a medical emergency, divorce. He is still tied to mommy's apron strings. If he wants so badly to be with mommy, let him go. He's not worth your time. And I can't believe he left his kids for you to care of when you're going through this. I'm sorry to jump straight to divorce, but mommy obviously means more than you or his kids. OP, first and foremost, you need medical attention. A miscarriage at 14 weeks due to a bad fall needs medical attention, especially considering you're anemic. Deal with getting medical attention first. Emergency services will watch his children while either he or the mom comes to pick them up. You shouldn't be looking after children when you are in need of medical attention. When you've gotten medical attention, pack your things and leave. I hate to say it like this, but leaving you miscarry and bleeding profusely with his children is abuse. His precious mummy's too important to him for him to care for you. You'll be much, much better off without him and his baggage mummy dearest. Lastly, see if you can get in contact with a grief counselor. There are also lots of groups on here that can help you through the grieving process. It's not going to be easy. Look after yourself before anyone else and take all the time you need. Best of luck, OP. I am sending you a lot of internet stranger hugs. Thank you for suggesting a grief counselor. I didn't even consider it. I did end up in the ER after her fainting. The kids were dropped off to their mom by my friend. I'm still in the hospital and still haven't heard from him. I am so sorry for your loss. Do you have somewhere safe you can go? His kids are here until Monday morning, so I'm taking care of them. My family lives 1,000 miles away. Second update. I've posted a few times. You can see my post history. I'm eternally grateful for all of your advice and emotional support during the hardest moment of my life. You've kept me strong enough to write you this update. I ended up discharged from the hospital after 24 hours, and he still wasn't home. I confided in my family and they booked me a ticket home. They were horrified that this happened, and a little hurt that I didn't reach out when it was happening for help. I don't know why it didn't occur to me. I packed my things and flew to them. He still hasn't responded to my texts, voicemails, or calls, so I left him a handwritten note. A few days after being with my family, I get a long text from him. He said that he had to stay with his mother for the entire week after I had miscarried in our home, basically because of her. Because, and get this folks, she felt triggered by my miscarriage and needed his emotional support. He argued that she needed him as she and his father are divorced. During this time, he didn't want to bring me up to further cause her distress, so he went no contact with me for a week. He said he thought I was strong enough to wait for him. He thinks I've overreacted by flying home, and he wants me to come home. I took your advice, folks, so I prepared for his stupid excuse and didn't let him manipulate me. I called and told him that when his mother had miscarried after he was born, she had her own husband to comfort her, while my husband left me alone and ignored me for a whole week. I told him everything you guys mentioned. It was medical neglect during a crisis, child abandonment of his own kids, my stepkids who were supposed to be under his care, and abandonment. I could have died and was very weak when I had checked into the hospital. I was even weak when I left. I told him I needed space to heal. I was finally getting emotional support from my family and I'm in a safe place. I'm not ready to see him. He said that he is her only son. He had to help her. I reminded him that he was my only husband and I needed him. The miscarriage was happening to me, not her. He asked me if we were still good. Absolutely not. I was blunt and told him I didn't see our relationship repairing after what it did. His actions will haunt me for years. I cry myself to sleep every night. I miss my baby and my marriage. Both of them died the same day. I haven't filed yet, but I plan on filing for divorce when I'm ready for it. He's upset. He cried and told me I was being overly emotional because of the loss, that I wasn't in my right mind, and said he'd fly out to see me and bring me home. I put my parents on the phone and let them chew him out. I don't know what they said, but he hasn't called since. He's texted a few times, but I haven't responded. I know it isn't a happy update, but I wanted everyone to know that I'm safe now. Mother-in-law can keep her son. She hasn't contacted me at all since this all happened, and it's been a blessing. I've heard from mutual friends that she's blasting me to everyone over social media, but I'm going to stay out of it for my own peace of mind. Thank you so much for caring about me and taking the time to reply and send messages with support. I've just read your previous posts, and although it is not my place to say, I'm going to say this anyway. I am so damn proud of you, and I hope that you are proud of yourself. You have just done the hardest thing you'll ever have to do and given yourself a bright, happy future full of love and support, which is exactly what you deserve. Keep doing what you're doing. Put yourself first. Let your family care for you. Ignore your soon-to-be ex-husband, who quite frankly is a sad excuse for a human who will never be happy. And get the help you need to build yourself up. You are brave, you are strong, you are loved, and you will have an incredible life because of the courage you have shown. I wish you the best of luck. This poster is spot on. I've never read something that made my blood boil so quick. I will report him and his mother for incest, and I'd make sure his ex-wife knew all about him abandoning you with his children while you weren't fit to look after yourself. Never mind the kids. I'm so glad you had the strength to call your family and go to them. They will protect you at any cost, just like that POS was supposed to do. The irony, the place with that man wasn't your home. You're home now. Home is where the people who love and care about you are, and that clearly isn't there. I'm so sorry this happened to you. Please protect yourself further. Document everything. Make sure you haven't got tracking etc. on your devices. Make sure you've changed all your passwords for banking and anything medical too. The last thing you want is him going rogue and trying to get information. If it does turn up, don't stand and argue with him or give him a warning. Just call the police. I don't like the fact he told you he is going to fly there to bring you home, like you are property or a naughty child gone rogue, and doesn't see what he did is wrong. I'm suspicious of him and his mother, and what they could do next. I'm so sorry you're having to live through this. Edit, please arrange for anything you need from your previous house to be removed ASAP. I've been thinking of you since I read of your miscarriage. I'm sorry for your loss. Well done for being strong enough to leave. Life will get better. Going no contact with you without warning because mommy was triggered is one of the most pathetic excuses I've ever encountered. I thought you'd be strong enough to cope alone is a total cop-out. It's like he thought you needing urgent medical attention was a weakness. I don't believe he gave you a second thought. He didn't even text. I'm glad you've seen him for the pathetic little man that he is. I'm only sorry it came at the very high cost of your baby and medical neglect. Sincere best wishes for your future. You deserve so much better in life. Thank goodness your family are supportive. Third update. My parents told him off when he first called and told him not to contact me again. He has since sent me lots of texts and voicemails. They alternate between reminding me of good memories, blaming me for what happened, being angry at me for not taking him back / responding, and apologizing. I feel bad dragging my parents in the first time, so I haven't told them about these messages. I haven't responded but have read every text and heard every voicemail. I can't bring myself to block him. He posted on social media saying he misses me and is waiting for me to come home. The post insinuates a long-distance relationship, and not that we aren't together. A week ago, a neighbor, this is my childhood home, recognized him waiting outside our home and called the police. He left before they came. It made me so anxious and afraid. I'm always worried that he'll be outside and peek through my window to make sure he's not. But I honestly do miss him and I'm still dealing with heartbreak. I loved him with all of my being, and it's taking time to come to terms with what transpired and how he treated me. It's brought up memories of other times he wasn't kind or considerate, and other instances where he put others, mostly his mom, before me. I realized I was brushing off a lot of red flags. His ex has reached out a few times. The kids had a visit with their dad, and it was unusual for me not to be there. I didn't respond. His mom has never reached out to me, which makes me happy and angry. Personally, life has been tough. I see pregnant women and cry. I still have my pregnancy app and it updates me on the fruit size of the baby each week and little facts. I can't bring myself to delete it. I'm so anxious about the due date I had and how it's approaching. I have covered all the mirrors in my space. I hate seeing how flat my stomach is. I hate seeing my stomach at all. I feel like I failed to protect my baby. What if I hadn't tripped? It's been very hard for me to let go of this baby. I'm in therapy and my therapist is kind and patient. She has suggested that I think of ways I want to honor this child. She said it's healthy to not want to forget and move on, but I need to find a way to honor her and keep her memory alive that doesn't consume me. I definitely think she's right, and have been looking at tattoo ideas and jewelry I can have made. My dad has a lawyer ready to help me with the divorce process, but I haven't filed yet. My mom cares a lot and keeps trying to suggest old childhood friends or her friends' sons for me to talk to and get my mind off things. But I don't think I could ever be in a relationship again. I feel numb and broken, and like a huge piece of me is missing. I have been working for the past 2 weeks and I'm planning on moving out. I feel like I'm burdening my parents with my problems. They fuss over me and are sometimes over the top sensitive. My brother was watching a movie where a character was giving birth and they made him turn it off even though I wasn't in the room. I don't want to disrupt their lives, and I feel so bad that they have to comfort me. I don't want to be hugged or constantly checked in on. I'm not trying to be ungrateful, I just feel like it all doesn't help. The random tight hug and "are you okay" are constant reminders of what happened. I'm trying to keep going. I'm trying to do my best, but I feel so empty and unhappy. Sometimes I wish I had bled to death in that bathroom. Sometimes I wish I had left the blood and left him before he had a chance to abandon me. So many regrets and scenarios play out in my mind. I often feel my mind heavy with dark thoughts and think I'd be better off gone. It's tough, but I'm going to try to keep moving. My heart just feels so heavy all the time. I know it's not much of an update, but this is where I am. Hun, you should never feel that way for some man. You are important. You matter. You will find someone who will treat you right. And if not, enjoy your life. Spend time with your family. But I know you will if that's what you want. That man was awful. Please move on. You're young, and don't let him manipulate you and your feelings. By shutting yourself and feel like the way you are feeling, you are letting him win. Take yourself back. Let him go live with his awful mom. He doesn't matter anymore. He is not worth your time. I'm very sorry for your loss. I'm glad you connected with a therapist, and it sounds like their counsel is both kind and helpful. I think that your parents love to be able to help you in any way they can. I don't think they see you as a burden at all. It also makes sense that their constant concern is reminding you of the situation. I know if you were my child, I would be glad to be able to be there for you. It might be possible to ask them to treat you more casually, maybe something to ask your therapist. I'm sorry that it feels hopeless right now. I truly believe that you can get through this and be happy again, even if it weighs off for now. It's a difficult time. That's really good advice. I will definitely try working my parents in with a therapist so we can have better communication. Thank you.
Am I the a-hole for saying no to picking up my son's half-sister from school? I am a single mom of 2 boys ages 11 and 10. Their father and I divorced 5 years ago after I learned he was cheating on me. He got her pregnant, either right before he told me and that was why he confessed, or right after. But our divorce was not an easy one. He wanted to stay friends when I could not even look at him after what he did. He and I were together for over 13 years. He was also a friend before he was my boyfriend/husband, and to have him betrayed me like that and treat me as he had was awful. He married his affair partner. They had a daughter within months of our separation, followed by a son after the divorce/their marriage. Last year, they lost a baby which led to the discovery that his wife had cancer. What followed was a lot of fighting between the two of us again. He wanted me to help him and his wife out. He said their children, who are currently 5 and 3, needed family beyond just him and his wife. His own family disowned him for our divorce as they were extremely religious and she has no family. I told him it would be over my dead body I would help him. He argued that it was for the children, and if not for his kids with her, then for our boys, who could see their family heal and be one. I told him he stopped any chance of that happening when he cheated on me. What I did not expect was for him to tell his daughter's school to call me when she got sick. He was at work at a time and couldn't leave apparently because he had already missed a lot of work due to his wife, and she was home recovering from chemo. I got a call, was asked if I would pick her up, and I said no. Several hours later, I got reamed on the phone by him for leaving a sick child at school when I knew they had nobody. This is when he told me how he couldn't leave and how his wife was resting. I told him the babysitter for his son should have been called over me. He told me he was in daycare and that I should be ashamed because she was a sick child who was going through a lot, and I could have helped. He told me he hoped our sons are going to be ashamed of me. They aren't, and I argued back with him over the phone at a time. But I guess part of me does feel bad for the child. My sons also sensed an atmosphere while they were with their dad after the incident when they talked about me, and I hate that for them. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. He has the nerve to try to manipulate you after cheating? Those aren't your kids and not your problem. I also feel bad for the girl, but it's his mess to solve. Give an inch, he'll take a mile. Say no now to prevent future problems. That is my concern. I do not want to be part of those two children's lives in any big way. And if I say yes to one thing, then it gets harder to say no again. And that establishes more of a relationship than I ever want with them. Your ex is trying to use your basic decency to manipulate you. No responsible parent puts down an emergency contact without getting confirmation by the contact. This is all on him. As sad and unfortunate a situation as it is for his children, you have the right to refuse to be their carer. He put his daughter in this position, not you. He is to blame for any discomfort she may have experienced. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. He is lining you up to be a mom to their kids after his wife dies. His behavior is disgusting. Stick to your guns. Oh yes, just wait until he wants you to take all the kids during your custody time. Draw a firm line in the sand now. Yes, this. There was a post on here of a man that cheated on his wife, divorced her, and when the affair partner and mother of his other child died, he insisted on a poster, his ex-wife, let the daughter call her mom. He even sent that OP videos of the little girl crying for her mommy. Not the a-hole. What kind of fool lists his ex-wife as emergency contact for his affair child? The audacity of him to get mad at you. The only children of his you need to care for are the ones you share with him. Do not let him tell you otherwise. Too bad he tanked his own life, but that's not your problem at all. If he can't handle the situation he got himself into, he needs to figure out a way to get himself through it. You're not responsible for his mistakes. While it's unfortunate his wife has cancer, you're still not obligated to help him at all with anything, except as related to your children. He can apologize and make amends with family or go out and make friends and get support that way. It's not your job. The type of a-hole who assumes that once the affair partner, current wife, passes or is placed in some form of care, expects his ex to take him back and go back to playing happy family. He's basically trying to get OP lined up as the new mommy to his kids with his affair partner once the affair partner is no longer in the picture. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom and sister to pay our bills if they agree my wife should be able to be a stay-at-home? My 28 male, wife 31 female, has recently started to express interest in being a stay-at-home wife to prep for being a stay-at-home mom. We don't have kids and haven't been trying, and before getting married, we talked about kids and work/home arrangement. And we agreed that we'd both work prior to and once we had kids, and agreed we'd take turns with the stay-at-home portion for the first year or two after potential kids were born, then both back to work. Now she wants to do away with that. It wants to be a stay-at-home wife until we have kids and then be a stay-at-home mom. I never want that. I never wanted that. And I made that clear from the start when we got serious. I enjoy my job a lot, but my salary can't sustain a family. And I don't want to go back to school and change careers like she wants me to make it happen. I don't want to take up a second job either, knowing I'd still be doing half the housework and childcare. Not that that's a bad thing. Whereas both my mom and her parents are local, she'd have plenty of help during the day and able to get downtime. We had dinner at my mother's a couple days ago with my sister and her kids. While we were there, my wife goes, "Your son's being mean. He won't let me be a stay-at-home mom." First, my family took this as she's pregnant and got excited. So I had to tell them that wasn't it, that she just wants to be a stay-at-home. It turned into this 3-on-1 conversation about how I should let her stay at home if that's what she really wants, and I should be taking care of her and finding a way to make this happen for her. Finally, I go, "Would you two help her with the house whenever she needs it?" Of course. That's what family's for, especially when you start having kids will help. Cool. Keep that same energy and help me pay all our bills and every other expense to upkeep our current quality of life, if you feel so strongly that she should get to stay home. They did not like that and told me I was being overdramatic. My mom called me stubborn and told me to find corners to cut to afford everything on my salary and drop things like streaming services, some of my hobbies, go from 2 cars to 1, etc. We left and my wife wasn't too happy on the way home. She says I was out of line for saying that to my mom and sister, especially since she thinks I was serious. Was I wrong for telling my mom and sister to pay our bills if they wanted me to go along with it? Not today, Hall, because you didn't bring it up to them. Your wife did. She was being manipulative and you called her on it. Be careful. I could see an, "Oops, we're pregnant. Now we have to stay home" moment coming. Haha, glad it wasn't just me seeing it. Not the Hall. I've been here and the divorce will be horrible once you have children. Get out now. She's shown her true colors. This is the warning sign. Seriously, divorce this woman. Not the Hall. Or at least get a vasectomy. I agree. End this now. Being stay-at-home used to mean all husbands needed to do at home was mow the lawn, shovel snow, and take cars in for service. If her expectation is you will be doing half the housework and childcare when at home, don't come at me. I believe in involved parents of all genders, just making a point here. Plus working 2 jobs, or going to school while working to get a higher salary job you don't even want. When the agreement was you would take turns being stay-at-home after kids, that would be a big nope for me. I found out after I was with someone for almost 2 years that he expected me to quit work, be a stay-at-home mom, plus have way more kids than I could mentally and physically handle. If you can do that, great, but it would have both broken me and been unfair to the kids. I thought he loved me for who I was, but it turned out he expected marriage to magically transform me. Not the Hall. Good luck, Opie. Take care of you. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister to stop coming to me to complain about what my husband says to her? My female 31 sister, female 35, Claire, has struggled with her inability to have kids for years. She gets all kinds of questions from people about when she'll have kids, but somehow she focuses on what my husband says about the topic and complains about how he constantly makes backhanded comments about her inability to have kids. She once claimed he told her women in their 30s plus have lesser chances to bear children. Or that one time she claimed he mocked her infertility by calling her garden barren, just like her. I admit that my husband is the type to dish it out, but her complaining seemed excessive because she never liked him anyway. Last week, we got together for dinner at my parents' house. My sister came downstairs later while my mom and I were in the kitchen and told me that my husband suggested she backs out of her IVF treatment and find a better use for the money when she announced wanting to try IVF. She went on about how insensitive and hurtful his words were. I felt upset that I told her she was right to be mad, but she needed to stop coming to me complaining about him as if he was my son, and try to speak to him instead. She snapped at me saying she'll already talk to him, but since he's my husband and I brought him into the family, then I should be the one to handle him. I told her reasoning didn't make any sense, but she called me selfish and cruel just like him. It got so overwhelming when my mom sided with her, even going as far as to say I was enabling him. I left and went home. My husband said my sister is just being too sensitive because he was just giving his honest opinion when she brought up the IVF, and said that if she has an issue with him, he should tell him to his face. He also said that she's probably looking for an excuse to pick an argument with me, and that I was innocent and had nothing to do with this despite her trying to involve me. Neither she nor my parents are speaking to me as of now. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. You're the a-hole. Tell your husband to keep his mouth shut. My husband is the type to dish it out. No. Your husband is the a-hole that thinks it's appropriate to comment on your sister's body and reproductive issues. What an awful inconsiderate man you married, and you don't seem too far behind him. He is also the type to believe his opinion is relevant and that other people care to hear it. Hopefully someone clarifies to him that this is not the case, and since he is neither the sister's financial planner nor fertility doctor, he should sit back down. This right here. It's one thing, to be honest, if someone asks for your opinion. It's an entirely different thing to offer your opinion when it's neither wanted nor needed. My uncle is like this. If he's read a book or heard a podcast, he's an expert. Even if it's my field of study with advanced degrees in peer-reviewed publications. I'll never forget the look on his face when I said, well, that's a common misconception among people who only have a superficial understanding of the issue. If you want to dig deeper, I can send you some articles. My father kept it together but then left all the way home in the car because it had been years since someone stunned his younger brother like that. You're the a-hole. Fertility issues are incredibly personal, and your husband has absolutely no place dishing it out, as you call it, over something so personal and sensitive. And yes, she is sensitive. It's a sensitive topic, and you should be absolutely ashamed of your husband's abhorrent behavior. He is being a cruel, vindictive bully who needs to learn that every little thought that passes through his bully brain doesn't need to come out of his mouth. Furthermore, him specifically targeting your sister says he actually wants to be cruel and hurtful to her, and you enable him. Oh, don't come to me about his behavior. Why shouldn't she? You married the oaf. He's your responsibility. Or are you just happy that when your sister is around, he's not being a cruel, vindictive idiot to you? Could also be that it's the kind of crap Opie wants to say herself, but she knows that their family will be a lot less tolerant of that nonsense coming from her than her husband. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for saying my sister-in-law is not my nephew and niece's mom? We have some background here. My sister-in-law is my brother's second wife, and she's the stepmother to his 3 kids ages 17, 15, and 14. My brother, Sam, lost his first wife when the kids were very small and remarried quickly, in part because he did not want to be alone, and also because he did not want his kids to grow up without a mom. They have been married for 10 years now, and the 3 kids in question do not call sister-in-law mom. They do not want anyone else to call her their mom either. She is the mother to my 2 nephews with my brother, but the discussion in question is regarding the older 3. My brother and sister-in-law went to therapy with the kids out of concern that children so young were so resistant to calling a new mother figure mom, someone who loved them and was genuinely there wanting the best for them. They ended up blaming their maternal family for the lack of title for sister-in-law and attempted to cut them out of the children's lives when the maternal family refused to tell the kids they wanted them to call sister-in-law mom because she was mom now. The courts were brought in, and that put a stop to removing contact. Over the years, the kids have been corrected many times. There have also been many punishments given out because the kids rebel against sister-in-law and have said things to hurt her. It's basically one big fight at their house. The rest of my family are kind of mixed in all this, and some feel like Sam and sister-in-law are wrong to push, but others believe something is amiss because the kids have not mellowed out towards sister-in-law at all and still refuse to have anyone speak about her as their mom. I think they also believe their maternal side of the family are to blame and that they believe they are wrong for not encouraging it. I have spoken to my nephew and nieces, so I know their mom's family have never said anything. What they do is talk about their mom and share her memory with them, and it's led to a connection forming through the maternal family. I think it's unfair to keep pushing them to call sister-in-law mom, and I think a focus should have been put on giving them a happy home life versus pushing for something the kids have expressed they do not want. A few days ago, Sam and sister-in-law were talking to our family about the kids going back to school and how my 14-year-old niece corrected the school admin who referred to sister-in-law as her mom. Sister-in-law talked about how upset she was and how she doesn't understand how the kids can still be so wrong on this. Sam even said he wanted to pull his hair out. I suggested, and not for the first time, that they should come to terms with the reality of things. Sam replied the reality is sister-in-law is their mom and has been for 10 years. I told them the reality is sister-in-law is not their mom. She's their stepmother, and you can't force feelings on that to change. I am now considered the a-hole. They said I only hurt sister-in-law more and rubbed her face into rejection by saying it. Am I the a-hole? I read stories like this and think, how do these people not realize that by focusing on the title and trying to force a relationship which erases the deceased parent, they are nuking any chance of forming a good, loving step-parent relationship? Not the a-hole. I'm glad that these kids have someone on their dad's side of the family who understands. Your brother and his wife may be surprised in a few years when you have a better relationship with these 3 young adults than they do. I think sometimes people forget that kids, while young and not always knowing the best, are people with their own thoughts and feelings. Sometimes people see kids as people who can be totally molded, including their own feelings, but just like adults, those can be hard to develop towards certain people for a variety of reasons. And trying to force something before they're ready will cause them to dig in their heels, much as it would for an adult. Had they not insisted upon it so early and so aggressively, and instead allowed the kids time to develop a maternal bond, it might have happened naturally. Making it a point of contention cemented her position as stepmom in their hearts and minds forever.